Ask Dan Schneider. On this Ask Dan Schneider, I will be answering a general question, one that I've been asked many times over the years, and that is, what is my political affiliation or view? And the reality is, I'm not a political person. I'm fairly apolitical. I guess I have been in the past a registered Democrat, but now I'm an independent. I vote independently. I have voted for Republicans for mostly just judgeships. I voted for them for like some DA positions. I voted pretty much mostly liberal, social liberal people, and that includes Democrats. I used to belong to the Ridgewood Democratic Party in the 1980s when I was a kid. I was turned off of the Democrats by Bill Clinton. The modern Republican Party I've found generally repugnant. And so I voted third party for a good portion of my life. Three times in presidential elections, 96, 2000, 2004, I did vote for Ralph Nader. I'm just sick and tired of Washington. I'm sick and tired of the political shenanigans that go on here in Texas, where I currently live. People are overtaxed. They say, well, it's a red state and it's a no income tax, but poor people pay a far larger portion of their property taxes than they do in blue states like New York or Minnesota. Just to give you an example, this past year, my wife and I made about 30% less than I did in my last few years when I lived in Minnesota in the early O's, yet I paid more in just my Texas property taxes for a home that was worth less on the real estate value than I did in Minnesota. And yet I paid more in property taxes alone than I did in property taxes and income taxes for my wife and myself for state income taxes for Minnesota a dozen years ago. So the myth that red states are lower taxes is nonsense. But I'm for things, as we record here in 2015. I'm for gay rights. I supported gay marriage. I'm for civil rights. I'm for rights for everyone as long as they're not hurting people. I'm not big on feminists. I'm not big on the men's right advocates. I'm not big on Black Power movement. I'm not big on religion. I generally think people need to think for themselves, uh, to be independent. I am generally against corporations. Uh, as I record this, I'm starting this coming week a new part of my life. After decades of working in corporate America, I'm starting a new job in the private sector, but in the nonprofit sector. So it's something that's different for me, and I'm looking forward to it. The idea of just creating or doing stuff just to do stuff, to me, is so unfulfilling and so noxious that I needed something different, and to get out of the whole corporate mindset where lies are all that's told. I remember I had a job doing phone sales a decade or so ago, and I remember they had a class that actually tried to teach people how to lie better, and they didn't call it the lying class. That's what I called it, but nonetheless, that's what it was: how to lie better, how to avoid answering questions directly. And I didn't do particularly well in that class. I did okay in the job. But that's what corporate America is. Corporate America, you're a number, you're not an individual, you have no human dignity. In certain states, at will states like Texas, most of the South, you can be fired at the drop of a hat unless it violates federal discrimination laws like against race, sex, sexual preference, religion, height, age, whatever. And I think that's been a terrible blow for most of working America. When I was a child, my dad, back in the 60s and 70s, belonged to some unions, and unions had some power. And yes, there were union abuses here and there, but by and large, the work for the people was much better. Corporate America has sapped the strength and the ethical fiber of most of the country. And so I'm, if anything, an anti-corporatist. I'm a libertarian, a civil libertarian, although I hate the Libertarian Party of America because it's just a bunch of corporate shills. I remember Michael Shermer was a guy I tried twice to interview, both for my radio internet show Omniversica and also for a written interview for the Dan Schneider interviews. He's one of those intellectual types that doesn't understand real life at all. Nonetheless, I am a social liberal. I am a civil libertarian. I support the freedom of people. I think by the end of this century, the end of the 21st century, we will probably have artificial intelligence, and we'll probably have intermarriage between AIs and human beings, and that will be an interesting thing. Nonetheless, those are my opinions for those who ask about them. I am also not religious. I'm an agnostic, not an atheist. I think agnosticism is the only honest and intellectually honest way to feel about religion and about a lot of other things too. Anyway, I will have another Ask Dan Schneider coming up soon, so thanks for listening.